Hello friends, all welcome to the techaviation YouTube channel. Today I am sharing the history of Singapore Airlines. Singapore Airlines is the flag carrier of Singapore with its hub Singapore Changi International Airport. The subsidiaries of Singapore Airlines, Scoot Airlines, SIA Engineering Company, Singapore Airline Cargo, Vistara for each. Let's go to the history of Singapore Airlines. The history of Singapore Airlines, the flag carrier of Republic of Singapore and based at the Singapore Changi Airport. Singapore Airlines, also known as Observation of SIA or SQ, has often been ranked through its history as either among the best airline in the world, ranked as the 5-star airline by Star Tags for the last 2 decades. It had also been ranked almost the top 10 air carriers worldwide in terms of the scale of revenues, passenger kilometers, and the 10th in the world for the volume of international passenger carried. Singapore Airlines is also one of the largest business in Asia, with a non-stop or direct flights to destinations in Asia, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and North America. The airline slogan is "Great Way to Fly." The airline is notable for not having significantly changed its livery through the history, as well as the Singapore Girls, which was first introduced in 1972. Singapore Airlines began with the incorporation of Malaysian Airways Limited (MAL) on 1st May 1947 by the Ocean Steamship Company of Liverpool, the Strategic Steamship Company of the Singapore, and Imperial Airways. The airline's first flight was chartered flight from the British satellite settlement of Singapore to Kuala Lumpur on 12th April 1947 using Airspeed Council twin-engined aircraft. Regular weekly scheduled flights followed from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur, Ipoh, and Bangkok from 1st May 1947. With the same aircraft type, the airline continued to expand during the rest of 1940s and 1950s as other British Commonwealth airlines such as BO, Box, and Qantas Imperial Airways provided technical assistance as well as assistance in joining IATA. By 1955, Malaysian Airways fleet had grown to including a large number of Douglas DC-3s, and the company went public in 1957. Other aircraft operated in 2 decades, including the Douglas DC-4 Skymaster, the Victor's Viscount, the Lockheed 1049 Super Constellation, the Britahol Britannia, the D. Halvin Command 4, and the Fokker F-27. When Malaya Singapore Circa formed the Federation of Malaysia in 1963, the airline name was changed from Malayan Airways to Malaysian Airways. MAL also took over Brunei Airways. In 1966, following Singapore's separation from the Federation, the airline name was changed again to Malaysia Singapore Airlines (MSA). The next year saw a rapid expansion in the airline's fleet and route, including the purchase of MSA's first Boeing aircraft, the Boeing 707s, as well as the completion of new high-rise headquarters in Singapore. Boeing 737s were added to the fleet soon after. In 1970, the airline began what turned out to be the lengthy inauguration aimed to be obtained approval operate service to the US. MSA ceased operation in 1972. Both Singapore Airlines and Malaysian Airlines system commenced operation in its place. The region for this development was strategic. Singapore wanted to increase its international route, but Malaysia wanted to develop its domestic network before moving to international routes. Singapore Airlines kept all MSA's Boeing 707s and 737s and retained the international routes out of Singapore, as well as the existing corporate headquarters in city, with J.Y. Pillay, former joint chief of MSA, as its first chairperson. Female flight attendants continued to wear Sargon Kebaya uniform, which had been the first introduced in 1968. A local startup app advertising many batty ads has given the right to market airline, eventually selecting the Estrarom and Kebia Clyde sweaters as an icon for the airline and calling them Singapore Girls. SIA expanded almost overnight after the split from MSA in 1972, adding cities in the Indian subcontinent and Asia to its network and new airline including Boeing 747s to its fleet. The first two Boeing 747s arrived in the summer of 1973 and were deployed on the lucrative Singapore, Hong Kong, Taipei, Tokyo, Haneda Airport run as of 1976. CSIA had an all-Boeing fleet of 21 aircraft, 5 Boeing 737s, 11 Boeing 707-300s, and 5 Boeing 747-200s. The airline's passenger network covered 28 cities in 23 countries, ranging from London to Northwest and Auckland in the southeast. The Boeing 737s flew regional service, including most of the company's 52 flights as per week to Kuala Lumpur. The large airline operated no longer distance route. Flights to London were operated daily by 747s during departing from Singapore International Airport at Paya Lebar at 8:30 p.m. each night, but with a variety of flight numbers and routing on Thursday and Saturday night at 9 p.m. and a 707th flight departure from Amsterdam. That year, SIA also operated daily 747's flight to Tokyo, daily 707's flight to Osaka, and daily flight to Shanghai using a mix 747s and 707s. The other flight went more frequently to Jakarta, Bangkok, and Hong Kong, and less frequently to the Perth, Melbourne, and Auckland. The 707s were the company Rose House, with flew 189 passengers flight per week. One of the 707s was the converted a pure freighter, and each week it operated 3 outback cargo service to Amsterdam, Los Angeles, Paris, respectively. However, SIA passenger service to US was still 3 years away. In August 1976, negotiation between SIA and US Civil Aeronautics Board CAB over possible sea service to as US stalled over the key issues of the route any such service could take. SIA wanted to operate via Tokyo, the most lucrative transit point at the time, but the CAB thought that such a routing could have to significant an effort to profit Sia's US-based competitor Pan American. The CAB reportedly instead the Sias would have to fly in parallel with Pan American service to Singapore to earn approval on a Singapore, Guam, Hull, San Francisco routing. The following year, 1977, was the CA's 30th anniversary. To mark occasion, the airline announced in the late 1976 that it would be sponsoring the second running of the London St. Marathon car rally, which take place in August-September 1977. In March 1977, negotiations between CIA and CAB were resumed in the August 1977. It was reported that the airline had placed an order for 4 MC Donald Dogs DC-10s. The same month, SIA took delivery of the first Boeing 727-200, advanced flying the aircraft on its inaugural service from Singapore to Manila. The Boeing 727 was CIA successor to Boeing 737-100s that had inherited from MSA. In late September 1977, at the end of 7 rounds of negotiation in SIA and the CAB finally agreed that the airline could operate passenger service to the US on the route to San Francisco via Hong Kong, Guam, and Colombo entirely 3 times per week, the increasing to 5 times per week by 1980. In December 1977, British Airways and SIA shared a Concorde for flight between London and Singapore via Bahrain. The aircraft BA's Concorde G board with painted in Singapore Airlines livery on the port side, a British Airways livery on starboard side. The service was discontinued after 4 days and 3 return flights because of the noise complaints from the Malaysian government. It was restraining a new route bypassing Malaysian airspace. Then India to city the problem with the boom and did not allow Concorde and reaching supersonic speeds in Indian airspace. Determined to make the route success, British Airways and Singapore Airlines resumed flight on 24th January 1979 in the time avoiding Malaysian airspace as well as Indians. However, the service was discontinued for good on 1st November 1980. The two carriers cities disgracing traffic as one of the reasons, with the road estimated to be costing them around 2 million a year. Meanwhile, SIA externally published and introduced new passenger service to US marketing campaign using a slogan, California, here we come, including painting of the slogan of many SIA airlines. From July 1972, SIA entirely planned to operate the US service using new Boeing 747-200 Super B aircraft, but the new jets were not going to arrive until approximately September 1979. Thus, when the airline inaugurated the route, April 1979, it did so with the new fleet of DC trains, 3 of which entered service. Operation of the first few of the US flight has hammered by a aviation fuel shortage in the US due to production cuts by Iran. Then on 25th May 1979, shortly after the fuel shortage had hit, an American airline DC-10 crashed in Chicago, causing 273 fatalities. Soon afterwards, and such as confused the crash, the US Federal Aviation Administration banned flying of DC trains in the US airspace. SIA therefore had to switch its new US service operation in by Boeing 707s until the last August 1979. The new US service to operating by 707s until late August 1979, when its new Boeing 747-200 Super Bs took over the route. The airline also held all of its DC trains by the late 1983. The 1980s saw the opening of new airport and SIA cooperative headquarters at Changi, along with expanded SIA service to United States, Canada, and additional European cities, with Madrid become the first Hispanic city to served by the airline. Boeing 747-300s were released and introduced new as the SIA fleet in the early 1980s. The named Big Top, the Boeing 747-300 replaced the 700 Boeing 747-200s all trans-Pacific routes as well as the prime European destination. Again, the short-term affair was began with a few Boeing 757s, later followed by the additional of Airbus A310s and Airbus A300s. The Airbus A310 became the Asian regional workhorse of the fleet, with the small A310-200 fleet serving until the late 1990s and the much larger Airbus A310-300 fleet serving by the 2000. In 1939, the first of the 50 Boeing 747-400s was added to the fleet. The Airbus A340-300 augmented by the Airbus A340-300s augmented the Boeing 747-400s no long-range routes into Spain, Zurich, Osborne, San Francisco, and cities not suitable for 747 service. Service expanded to Southern Africa in 1990s when the airline began began flights to Johannesburg in South Africa. Cape Town and Durban were later added. The 1990s also saw the opening of Terminal 2 in Changi Airport in 1991. All flights operation later moved to the new terminal. Police raised SIA office in Germany for offering tickets that were priced such as low level. They are such a low level they were allegedly illegal. The airline called a press conference contained the police, which led to the raid being stopped. 21st century. In 2004, SIA began non-stop transpacific flight from Singapore to Los Angeles and New York, installing the Airbus A340-500. This flight marked the first non-stop air service between Singapore and the US. The Singapore and New York flight held the record for the longest scheduled commercial with a flying time about 18 hours each day. Each way, Singapore Airlines converted its 5 Airbus A340-500 aircraft from 64 business class and 117 premium economy class configuration to a 100-seat all business class configuration for its routes to New York and Los Angeles. On 25th October 2007, SIA first double-decker Airbus A380-800 operated the type inaugural revenue service, a flight from Singapore to Sunday. Today, Singapore Airlines is the world's second largest operator of Airbus A380 after Emirates of the UAE. SIA operates the Airbus A380 on route to London, Zurich, Frankfurt, Paris, Mumbai, Beijing, Sydney, Melbourne, Los Angeles and New York. The airline is also currently a far-reaching global carrier, cornerstone member of Star Alliance. In January 2009, SIA took decision to stop its 3-weekly flight to Bangkok, Canada, as the global financial crisis has sapped demand on the route. The last flight was scheduled to take place on 25th April 2009. At the cabinet meeting on 22 February 2006, the government of Australia decided not to grant the 5th freedom flight to Singapore Airlines on the flights from Australia to the United States. Singapore Airlines and augured the Trans-Pacific flights from Australia suffered from the undercapacity, leading to limited competition. That rivalry high air phrase to move was when the measure to taken to protect Qantas from the increasing competition. SIA had encountered such protection measured the past when SIA was shut off from the token market after completing the Air Canada and was forced to stop flying 747-400s into Jakarta. The way protects of the Garuda Indonesia when it's cold, it could not use the similar equipment to complete. Singapore Airlines, along with Star Alliance partner South African Airways, and funded 25 million South African rand, 4.1 million, as the administrative penalty to partly settle a price-fixing investigation against the airline by the South African Competition Commission from 2008 to 2012. On 6th April 2012, Singapore Airlines closed out the last passenger 747s in its fleet. 39 years of service, a final ground-trip convenient flight was operated from the Singapore to Hong Kong and back with the flight number SQ747 and SQ748 respectively, as well as extended flying time, specially meals performance and in-flight celebration. Passengers were given well-stocked 747's goodie bags. The airline continued to use the dedicated freighter 747s to operate cargo flights. The airline announced that it will be end in the direct flight from Singapore to both New York and Los Angeles from 23rd November 2013 and 20th October 2013 respectively. The flight to New York and considers the longest flight in the world. However, Los Angeles will be continued to be served from Singapore via Tokyo Net. On 13th October 2015, Singapore Airlines announced that it had signed an agreement with Airbus to be launched customer of new version of Airbus A380 XWB called Airbus A380-900 ULR for ultra long range. The flight began on 11th October 2018 with regular daily commercial scheduled flights starting from 9:80 October 2080. This version of the Airbus A350 could have two-class layout, 67 business class seat and 94 premium economy seat. SIA was launch customer for the Boeing 787-10, and it was delivered on 25th March 2008. In June 2018, Singapore Airlines and its subsidiaries could began to listening to Taiwan as the part of China, under the recruitment of China Civil Aviation Authority to all foreign airlines that operate flights into the country. Other airlines such as American Airlines, Delta Airlines, United Airlines, Air Canada, Japan Airlines, All Nippon Airlines, Lufthansa, Air New Zealand, and Qantas, among others, also complied with other recruitment. Airbus A380. On 29 September 2000, SIA announced an order for up to 25 Airbus A3XX. As the Airbus A380, known as that time, the US $8.6 billion order comprised a frame order of 10 aircraft with option on another 15 airframes. The order was confirmed by Singapore Airlines on 12 July 2001. In January 2005, the airline unveiled the slogan "First to Fly." The Airbus A380 experienced the difference in 2006 to promote itself as the first airline take a delivery of the Airbus A380-800, which expected to take place the second quarter of 2006. In June 2005, Airbus confirmed that due to the overfroms the technical problems, individual deliveries, the Airbus A380 would be delayed by up to 6 months, with the first delivery now started. Now, on November 2006, the announcement was made by the by SIA Chief Executive Officer Chan Chong-sang, who threatened to sue Airbus, saying Airbus took some time to acknowledge the delay of timetable for the Airbus A380's entry into service. I would have expected more sincerely. He further stated that SIA will be turning the attention of Boeing instead, since it would be reserving the Boeing 777 300ER before the Airbus A380. Nevertheless, SIA that instead indicate that this would not be effect in promotional campaign. In February 2006, the first Airbus A380 in full Singapore Airlines livery was flown to Singapore, where it displayed as the Asian Aerospace. 2006 on 14th June 2006, Singapore Airlines placed an initial order for the Boeing 787 Dreamliner as part of its future aircraft expansion. The order consisted of 20 Boeing 787-9s and right for 20 more. This order came one day after Airbus announced that the Airbus A380 Super Jumbo would be delayed by another 6 months. A third delay was announced by 3rd October 2006, pushing the initial delivery of the Airbus A380 to October 2007. On 25 October 2007, the first commercial Airbus A380 service SQ330s carried 455 passengers from Singapore to Sunday, touching down in the Sunday airport at 3:24 p. At 3 o'clock 24 p.m. At 3:24 p.m. local time, where they received significant attention from the media. The airline donated all revenue generated from the flight to 3 charities. In the ceremony the next day in Sunday, SIA began regular service with Airbus A380 on 28 October 2007. It eventually served London, Tokyo, Paris, Hong Kong, Melbourne, Zurich, Los Angeles, as well as New York, JFK via Frankfurt. On 18th February 2009, SIA carried its 1 millionth Airbus A380 passengers. In 2012, SIA announced that would be order further 5 more Airbus A380 planes along with an order for 20 Airbus A350XWB order. In 2016, the airline confirmed that one Airbus A380 would be returned to its leasing company at the end of the 10-year lease in October 2007, with discussions still being made regarding retention of our for additional Airbus A380 aircraft whose lease expired between January and June 2008. Fleet reduction. On 16th February 2009, the airline announced that it would be remove 17 aircraft from its operating fleet between April 2009 and March 2010 as part of the cost saving indicated to a level as per the of cost saving indicated to help counter falling passenger and cargo demand, having originally planned to fuse phase out only 4 aircraft. The airline stated that it could not roll out the delaying deliveries on aircraft already ordered. Formula 1. On 15th April 2014, Singapore Airlines announced that it would become the sponsor of the Singapore Grand Prix, taking over Stratton, who had sponsored the event since 2008. In August 2015, the airline announced that it would be extended its sponsorship after 2 years until 2017. In April 2020, SIA announced that they would continue to sponsor the event until 2021, with SIA further extending its sponsorship for another 3 years until 2024. Inauguration of Silk Air. On 18th May 2018, Singapore Airlines announced that the Silk Air fleet would undergo a major cabin product upgrade from 2020 before being fully merged into the parent company. As part of the merger, Silk Air website was discontinued. The integrated into Singapore Airlines website on 31st March 2019. Cabin upgrades were expected for being in 2020. On 11th February 2019, a Singapore airline announced that Thomson Aerostating had been selected for the upgrade of the Silk Air business class seats prior to their incorporation into the Singapore fleet, and with the work began in May 2020. On 28th January 2021, Silk Air officially changed to operation and merged with Singapore Airlines. Thank you for watching my video. Please like, share, subscribe, and please comment. Thank you.